Episode 62. It really is okay not to feel okay at work. Welcome to Clinicians Creating Impact, a show for physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech-language pathologists looking to take the next step in their careers and make a real difference in the lives of their clients. If you're looking to improve the lives of neurodiverse children and families with neurological-based challenges, grow your own business, or simply show up to help clients, this is the show for you. I'm Heather Branscombe, therapist, certified coach, clinical director, and owner of Abilities Neurological Rehabilitation. I have over 25 years experience in both the public and private sectors, and I'm here to help you become the therapist you want to be, supporting people to work towards their dreams and live their best lives. You ready to dive in? Let's go. Hi there, friend. I hope you're doing well today. I'm recording this in the first little bit of March, and just as I hoped earlier on, I don't know if you're hearing this the same time around March or a different time, but I can start to feel the first little bits of spring, and it is amazing. I don't know about you, but I love spring. I love when the flowers are coming up, when there's more light, when there's a little more sun. It just feels hopeful, doesn't it? Today, I just wanted to share an episode that I actually did early on in the podcast. But when I looked back at the notes and the episode, I really just felt like this is a time of year where I really just want to give you a gift and share with you why it's okay not to feel okay at work. I think we as clinicians are so privileged to be in the work that we are. So many of us have worked so hard. We have got good grades. We've done a lot of things to get into competitive programs. If we haven't even done that, if you're working in a different capacity, I know minimally you've gone through a pretty rigorous hiring process. So it really is no accident that you are in this position. And sometimes I think that can kind of work against us when we don't feel amazing all the time at work. So as we kind of reemerge in the springtime, I just wanted to reassure you that, again, it is okay to not feel okay about work, and tell you a little bit why I think that and what you might want to do about it. If you hear this and you want to learn more, please reach out to me. I am busy. Of course I'm busy, but I am never too busy to chat with you. So you can always feel free to email me at heather@abilitiesrehabilitation.com. And with that, let's take a listen to this episode. Is it okay to not feel okay at work? Hello, friend. As I record this podcast, I'm continuing to do it on a Saturday because I continue to live in Reno land. Happily so. There are so many amazing changes that are happening in my house right now. And I'm also seeing some amazing changes in therapists and their perspectives as they listen to the podcast. So thank you. Yay, you. Can we just say that for a minute? Yay, you for taking the time to invest in yourself. Let's have a mini party for you. I love celebrating wins. One thing that I do with my leadership support team each week is we start out our meeting with the pit and the peak of the week. I get to learn so much more about the team and how I can support them, as well as it really normalizes having a pit or hard times at work. So let's talk about whether or not it's okay to not feel okay at work. Do you ever feel overwhelmed, unsure, anxious, or uncomfortable at work? I know I have, and I may have as recently as last week, some or even all of those. What I notice is when we have these feelings, we tend to blame two things. One, we blame other people for our feelings, or two, we blame ourselves for our feelings and decide that it's our issue. Now, again, I just want to offer, I am a person who has done both. I have definitely blamed other people for my feelings, clients, other staff that I've worked with, especially if they were in the past, if they were my supervisor. I've judged myself when I was the one in charge, and I'm really trying to create a place now where I work where we create dream jobs for everyone else. So as I do that, I often think about that judgment of like, shouldn't that include myself? And if I do feel any of those feelings that I mentioned before, does that mean that I'm not living up to my own vision if I ever feel overwhelmed, if I ever feel anxious, if I ever feel unsure? Does that mean that I'm a fraud? I often see this with people I work with in the capacity of a coach, both inside and outside abilities, where they use the model that we've talked about in previous episodes to see that they have a thought that's generating this negative feeling at work. So then they judge themselves, or they want to just thought swap their way to feeling happy. So if this resonates with you, I want to give you a couple of tools today to help you to be a little bit more effective. First, I want to offer the thought that it is okay to not feel okay at work. Nothing has gone wrong if you don't feel okay at work at any given time. Part of the reason that people are unhappy is because they believe that they shouldn't ever be unhappy. No one really teaches us that unhappiness is a necessary and even a valuable part of the human experience, even at work. We don't leave our humanness at the door when we come to work, nor should we. Without unhappiness, we would have no frame of reference for the happiness that we're searching for. And so I want to offer that negative emotions really make those positive emotions possible. There's a concept out there that I like, that life is 50-50, and I really do believe that to be true. Most people experience more than half of their life as negative because they spend so much of their time being unhappy about being unhappy instead of just accepting the unhappiness as a natural part of life. Now, I don't mean to say that you should be happy about being unhappy at work. Not at all. And clearly that would be a disservice, especially for someone like myself who is trying to employ people like this at work. That would be really disingenuous for me to say. I like this concept of the 50-50 because it really just seems realistic. A life that's all daisies and unicorns and rainbows really doesn't seem super real, even at work. Even when you're doing your dream job, which is for many of you what you're doing right now. So then the question is, what is the point of feeling your feelings, especially at work? I want to offer you today that it's important for you to allow feelings at work instead of resisting them, reacting them, or even avoiding them. When we resist an emotion, it's really like trying to hold a beach ball under the water. You can do it for a while, but it's really exhausting. Eventually, that beach ball is going to come popping up from under the water with a good deal of force. Reacting to a feeling is what children or those with less emotional control do. It's letting the emotion control our behavior by doing things like yelling, slamming doors, throwing tantrums, and maybe even less subtle, but more intentional communication that we are letting that emotion control our behavior. Reacting is when we push against the emotion. We dramatize things or we freak out on large levels or on small levels. And I think all of us have worked with someone that definitely react to their emotions instead of allow their emotions. Now, avoiding is when we sense the emotion, but we look to escape it or we look to dull it. Typically with a buffering kind of behavior like overeating, overdrinking, overworking, overshopping, Netflix, social media, and so on and so on. Most often, those kind of buffering behaviors have a net negative consequence and they ultimately don't serve our goals. So when we can allow those negative emotions come from a place of compassion, we ultimately gain authority over them. When we resist negative emotions, react to them, or attempt to avoid them, we actually suffer more. So I like to think of negative feelings kind of like a check engine light. What if those negative thoughts and feelings are really just an opportunity to connect with yourself? So just like a check engine light, sometimes it's just a faulty wire or a faulty thought. But other times it could be something larger that you really want to check into. It's taking the opportunity to check in with yourself that allows you to decide if that check engine light is useful or not. So say a client isn't happy with the services you provide, and they communicate that to you in an email. If you haven't had that yet as a therapist, you definitely will. I think all therapists have that at some point in their career. So you read the email, and then you can feel your stomach drop. You notice that you feel hurt by the comment, and when you check into why, it's because you believe this might mean that you are a bad therapist. Now, a normal human brain can go to judgment either by deciding that it's your fault or deciding that it's the client's fault that you feel this way. But when you understand that it is the thought that's generating that feeling of hurt, it makes sense that your primitive brain is thinking that, because that's the part of the brain that likes things to be safe, comfortable, and easy. If you've been questioning if you are a good therapist or not, it makes sense that your brain will decide that that client's email means that you aren't a good therapist. It's providing evidence for that. That's the easiest way for your brain to make meaning from that email. Now, just because it's easy to think that doesn't make it true. So, what if we treated that thought and feeling like a check engine light? It means that you get to check in with yourself with curiosity instead of judgment or blame. Curiosity could look something like, how is this thought true? Or how is this thought not true? So how is it true that you're not a good clinician? How is it true that you are a good clinician? What I notice when I ask myself that question and sit with it for a bit is that I can find evidence for both sides. So even now, 25 years into my career, I can see how I am a good clinician and how sometimes I am a bad clinician. I don't even need an email to help me to see both sides at this point. What you're doing when you give equal airtime to both sides is that you dial down the primitive part of our brain by giving it other options. Also, by doing that, you allow your higher part of your brain space to decide what it wants to think, given that both options could be seen as true. So given that your brain can see evidence for both, what do you want to direct your brain to actually believe? So for me, I think it's much more helpful for me and my clients to believe that I am a good clinician. And when I see those thoughts and feelings that signal my check engine light, I don't make it a big deal because I know it's an opportunity to lift the hood and to see what's really going on inside my brain. So as I was preparing for this podcast, I actually thought of an example that happened to me just this week from the other side. And I thought that it would be helpful to share just how wacky brains can be. So I was coaching somebody earlier this week, and less than 5 minutes into our session, she had this massive aha moment. So much so that she said, "Oh, wow, we could end this call right now, and I have got what I needed today." Now, I don't say this to brag because I really just want to use this as an opportunity to show you what happened next for my brain. Instead of actually celebrating the win for the client, my brain made that mean something about myself, and then I felt a huge amount of pressure. The thought that generated that pressure was something like, oh my goodness, I have 40 minutes left in this session, and I don't know that I can deliver in the way that she might be expecting me to deliver based on what her reaction is in the first 5 minutes. What I noticed for me is that things that I normally do in a coaching session took a lot more work for me because I was so in my head about the pressure I felt to be amazing. Aren't brains hilarious? Brains can take both negative feedback and positive feedback and turn that into pressure. So after the session, I decided to check in with myself to see what was going on. What I learned from that is, as a physical therapist, I'm used to getting negative feedback. If you are a physical therapist or if you have worked with one, you know they've often called us physical terrorists, and there's a reason for that. But I was much less used to facilitating this huge positive shift within a 5-minute time frame within the first session. My clients typically have been those with neurodiversities or neurological challenges. So we're really looking at the long term, and we're looking to create an impact for the long term, not necessarily in the first 5 minutes. So to my brain, a huge win within 5 minutes felt super unusual. And so therefore alarms went off and generated a feeling of pressure. So now that I've taken that time to figure that out, if it happens again, I'll have a better awareness about what's going on, and I'll be able to respond the way that I want much more quickly without the judgment or blame for me or my client. So let's normalize it being okay for it not to feel okay at work. Let's start to see negative thoughts or feelings as a check engine light and use it as an opportunity to connect with ourselves by looking under the hood and to check in and see what's really going on in our brain. Ignoring the check engine light in our car can have catastrophic challenges, and it's no different for us in resisting or ignoring those feelings at work. Ignoring those lights has implications for those we work with and ultimately ourselves. I can't wait to see the impact that you create with these tools. See you soon. If you enjoyed today's show and don't want to worry about missing an episode, you can follow the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you haven't already, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a rating and review to let me know what you think and to help others find clinicians creating impact. It doesn't have to be a 5-star rating, although I sure hope you love the show. I'd really want your honest feedback so I can create an awesome podcast that provides tons of value. To learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website at www.abilitiesrehabilitation.com/clinicians corner to download your free Getting It All Done at Work process and to see what I'm up to. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining me this week on the Clinicians Creating Impact podcast. Want to learn more about the work I'm doing with Abilities Rehabilitation? Head on over to abilitiesrehabilitation.com. See you next week.